Well, let's turn to the presidential election of 2016, a lot of people think it went the way it did because many people were desperate to be heard, desperate to be valued, and desperate to have the powers that understand their problems or have people that understand their problems. Those issues are still with us. Many progressives and conservatives here in the North State, quite frankly, feel ignored and rejected by Sacramento. We see water being shipped to the south and infrastructure crumbling. What would you say to those in the North State who feel this way? And I know you're a fan of the true North up here.
Yes, I am. I'm a fifth-generation Californian, and I do think Mark Twain had it right when he said the problem with common sense is that it's not very common. I think there's some important things we need to understand. And first, one of the things that I'm sure about, and I've never changed my mind on, is that the state of California needs to do better long-range planning. We are the biggest state in the union, and we're still adding people at a pretty good pace. And we're the sixth largest economy, not just in the United States, we're the sixth largest economy in the world. So it's stunning to me that we don't do long-range planning as a state. We make every city and every county do a long-range plan, but the state isn't doing it. So when I got to the legislature, I'd been a corporate planner for one of the biggest companies in California, and I asked to see the plans, and most people looked at me and shook their head. I knew we had a general plan in Union City. I knew the county had one. Why didn't the state have plans? Finally, I got to Water, Parks, and Wildlife, and the consultant said, well, we do have a plan in water done under Governor Brown, Pat Brown, 1957. And that's still the last water plan that California did. I had a bill to do a long-range water plan. Pete Wilson vetoed it. He said I was a communist. And I tried to explain to him that he'd never worked in private industry, that capitalists actually have planning too. But who knows why. The fact is the last master plan for higher education was done in 1960 under Pat Brown. So we need to do some long-range planning so that we can, in fact, we don't need to build twin tunnels and endanger the Bay and Delta. What we do need is to get a plan that when we have a record rainfall, as we had last year, to capture that water and to store it, whether it's in our aquifers or in other places. But the truth is that we let most of that water just run into the ocean. Our lack of long-range planning is showing its face in Noraville, where you have $800 million repair because nobody had a long-range plan for maintenance of that dam. So I would suggest that we need to get a governor who's going to be interested in long-range planning, thinking down the road more than a year or two, more like 10, 20 years. And, when we did that, when we were really thinking big about the future, we built the finest infrastructure that the country had ever seen. My dad, who I mentioned was from back east, many of his brothers and sisters came to visit us, and they were always saying, wow, you have the greatest freeways, and what a wonderful freeways you've got. And on and on. We had the greatest higher education system. We were tied with New York in our per pupil spending for K-12 education. And where are we today? We're 41st. New York spends more than twice as much per kid. So it's time we start doing some long-range planning. Education didn't get less important. It got more important, and yet we got kind of feckless about taking care of it.
Yeah, we just had, I believe, another dam, imminent failure down south, and now we had Oroville Dam. Would you, as governor, concentrate more on making sure the 4,500, however many dams and infrastructure things we have are up to standard before we work on new projects and before we build new reservoirs or look at tunnels? Maybe we should fix what we already have.
Well, yes, we really do have to do some planning about what we already have. I'm not sure. I'm not a fan of the tunnels for the same reason that I didn't like the peripheral canal. The tunnels are the peripheral canal with a lid on them. But the fact is that we do need to have some thinking about water, and we can't build a lot more reservoirs. There aren't a lot more places you could put them safely. So what we have to do is have a variety of different plans for how we're going to reuse and store water. If you go to many of the desert countries like Israel, they reuse a lot of water. They find good ways to enhance their gray water and use it for different purposes. We're starting to do more of that in California, but it's not being done in a consistent way across the state. So I think we do need a long-range water plan. It needs to be about, yes, how can we store water? How can we improve our aquifers and how can we stop the fact is we've got subsidence of groundwater, and it's actually causing the the land drop in parts of the state. So there needs to be a lot more thinking about not only how we take care of old existing storage facilities, but what we do that's more nimble about storage in the future. We have these great universities. I went and saw the French preschools. I asked the woman who was the Ministry of Education, did she have some studies she could show me, because they had been doing preschools for over 50 years and they were all in love with them. And she said to me, "We do not have the great research institutions you Americans have. We use your research. We have the research that tells us, without any doubt, that the steepest curve of learning is 0 to 5, and yet we're not doing preschool for all. Why? Why is that?" And so there are things we need to do environmentally. There are things we need to do in terms of infrastructure. There are things we need to do educationally. There are things we need to do in housing. And we have a lot of good information. What we have lacked is will, the courage, vision, and heart to get these things done.